Hi, it's your pal Steamed Hams. Join me every week on the Unforgettable Luncheon as we discuss topics in the nerd world like gaming, comics, cartoons, and whatever else may cross my mind. You can find me on the socials as SteamedHams81 on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, and YouTube. You can also find me as the Unforgettable Luncheon on Facebook. And check out Steamed Hams Merchtorium, the link to which will be in the description of this podcast. The Unforgettable Luncheon, nerd comedy at its okayest. Robocop, part man, part machine, all cop. The future of law enforcement in the 80s. You think this would be a one-shot deal, and you wouldn't see much of this ever again. Boy, were we wrong. Robocop spawned 2 sequels, a pair of animated series, 2 live-action series, various video games, and yes, toys. Dead or alive, you're coming with me to talk about Robocop. Part man, part machine. Okay, mostly machine. Today, on the Unforgettable Luncheon. Hi, it's your pal Steamed Hams. I hope you're ready for an unforgettable luncheon. Robocop was a 1987 science fiction action film directed by Paul Verhoeven and written by Edward Neumeier and Michael Miner. It follows the story of a murdered police officer made into a cyborg to fight crime as violently as possible. This movie satirized things like corporate consumer culture, as shown in random commercials that would play during the news breaks, and the masculinity and violence of 80s action heroes. Honestly, I watched this movie as a kid all the damn time, despite its hard R rating. This movie spawned 2 film sequels, a reboot, 2 live-action series, 2 animated series, and a few video games. Not to mention a toy line. So much to cover, so let's get to it, huh? Robocop, released in 1987, follows Detroit police officer Alex Murphy, played by Peter Weller. The Detroit PD is now being run by Omni Consumer Products, or OCP. Their goal is basically to knock down Detroit and build a futuristic city called Delta City. To do that, they need to get rid of crime. And the cops are pissed about being run by a corporation, so they spend the movie talking about a strike that does actually happen in the third act off screen. Dick Jones, senior VP at OCP, who's down with OPP, came up with a walking tank called the Enforcement Droid Series 209, or ED-209, or even ED-209, whatever you want to call it. He brings up to the boardroom and shows it off to impress the CEO of OCP, known as the Old Man. The thing goes haywire, because why the fuck not, and kills a junior executive. Now, my question is, it's a demo in a boardroom in front of a bunch of executives just to show that it works. Why the hell did you use live ammunition if you're not sure it's ready? Of course, the Old Man is not mad, he's just disappointed. Very disappointed. A junior executive named Bob Morton approaches the Old Man with his Robocop project, and he gets the green light. Murphy is moved from a cushy precinct to a war zone precinct. He's partnered with Officer Ann Lewis, and they respond to a robbery call pretty much right off the bat. Murphy is killed by criminal Clarence Boddicker, played by Kurtwood Smith, who you might remember as Red Foreman from that 70s show. Which is why I spend a good amount of this movie always calling people in his scenes dumbass and threatening to put a foot in someone's ass. Because, I'm an adult. Now, the whole crew unloads on him from close range. With the amount of firepower thrown at him, how was there even a body left to turn into Robocop? Okay? To nobody's surprise, of course, he dies. He gets reborn as Robocop, and his memory wiped to make him a more effective cybercop. Can't have him remembering getting murdered now, can we? So, he runs around shooting the hell out of criminals. One such stop included him shooting a criminal right in the dick between the hostage's open legs. also known as the best fucking scene in the movie. He has a nightmare during maintenance where he relives his death. He takes off, and Lewis realizes, that she recognizes him and calls him by his old name, Murphy, which sparks memories. After a confrontation with one of Clarence's gang members, Robocop looks him up in the police database, and a spark of memory makes him seem familiar. He realizes, I know this guy. What the? So he looks him up. Finds all his known associates, including good old Clarence. And he has a buttload of memories come back, including more of his murder and his death. So, yay, he's having a good time. Good old Dick Jones has Clarence murder Bob Morton for trying to usurp him. And then after a fun shootout at a drug factory, which that scene is pretty awesome actually, Robocop finds out that Clarence works for Dick. When he confronts him, he finds that old dickhead Jones had a secret protocol snuck in that makes him shut down if he tries to arrest a senior exec at OCP. That's clever, I ain't gonna lie. Robo escapes after battling the erectile dysfunction 209, which falls down a flight of stairs and can't get up. He gets confronted by SWAT. They're on orders from OCP, and they fuck him up pretty bad. He gets saved by Lewis and goes on a run. They run off to a steel mill to hide and let Robocop repair himself. And, of course, are found by Clarence and company after being given a tracker by, Dick Jones. Alright, so, of course, one by one, the criminals are dealt with, be it by shooting, explosion, or my absolute favorite now, the melting. See, one of the guys runs his truck into a toxic waste vat that, of course, floods the truck and starts melting him. Now, as a kid, I was scared shitless of this scene because then he also gets run over by Clarence and just splattered, like literally just liquefies. As an adult, I'm like, this is the coolest shit on the planet. I ain't gonna lie, this is some good special effects. And of course, on the brink of defeat, Robocop uses his little data knife spike thing to stab Clarence in the throat. And of course he kills him, because that's what stabbing in the throat does to you. Then, he la-di-das over to OCP headquarters, blows up the Ed Begley Jr. 209 with an awesome super rifle, which was just a dressed up 50 cal BMG, which is an awesome gun to shoot, by the way, and goes up to the boardroom to have words with Dickless Jones. He shows a recording that he made during their earlier confrontation, and Dickie takes the old man hostage, who promptly fires his ass. Since he's now unemployed, Robocop decides to do his own firing of his gun and blowing Dick out a window. That came out wrong. The end. I mean, I love it. It was ultra violent, lots of swearing, and 7-year-old me should not have been watching it, but I totally was. So there. Now, Robocop 2 was released in 1990. Orion wanted a quick cash grab of having one released like the following year, but Verhoeven and Neumeier and all that were like, no. And then the script got rewritten by Frank Miller and released in 1990. Now this time, OCP is trying to bankrupt Detroit so they'll default on a loan and foreclose on the city, so they can knock it down and build Delta City. They also have to contend with a new designer drug called Nuke, created by an insane drug dealer with a messiah complex named Kane. OCP cuts the cops' pensions so they'll strike and crime will run rampant, and OCP tries to create Robocop 2. Look, they said the thing, the title of the movie. They really said it too. Using legally dead officers like they did with Alex Murphy to replace the striking cops. Now this fails at horrifying and comical levels because the new Robocops can't handle the fact that they were dead and now all of a sudden they're a robot and they're realizing who they are. And they instantly all commit suicide in one way or another. Like, literally right out the gate, they're introduced. Hey, Robocop 2. One shoots himself in the head. Another one pulls his helmet off so he dies. So, yeah, problem. Dr. Fax who's an insane psychologist. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but it happened. Figures Murphy's strong moral code and, for some reason, his Catholic upbringing made him the perfect candidate. I don't know what being Catholic had to do with it, but okay. She convinces the old man to let her run the project. And everyone except the old man is horrified to learn that she wants to use death row inmates instead of cops to be Robocop. Because, yes, giving a condemned criminal a robot suit and immortality is always a solid plan. Oh, we've seen that work out. Kane and his minions ambush Robocop and tear him apart. He gets repaired, but Fax stuffs a bunch of idiotic directives into his noggin to make him useless as back pockets on a vest. And he's like, fuck this shit, and does a hard reset by running 11 billion volts through his fucking ass. The cops join him in raiding Kane's hideout after seeing what he did to make himself useful again, and Robo violently catches Kane. I mean, does he really do his job any other way? Of course, Fax drafts Kane to be Robocop 2, thinking she can control him through his nuke addiction. Yes, give an insane, drug-addicted criminal a robot suit powered by drugs. That'll end well. Kane's preteen minion Hob takes over the drug empire and offers to wipe the city's debt clean in exchange for a hands-off approach to nuke. To fuck up OCP's plan. OCP, of course, finds this out and sends Kane to kill them all, with the only survivor being the mayor, who escapes via the sewers. Detroit sewers. I don't know, I might have gone for death on that one. I don't know about you. I would have. Now, Kane Cop is unveiled by the old man during a press conference. And when Kane sees the big-ass vial of nuke they're using as an example, he goes bananas and starts murdering people for that sweet, sweet nuke. Robocop shows up and fisticuffs ensue with a lot of big guns. He shoots through Kane's armor eventually after a good amount of punching and throwing and kicking and the whatnot and the who's it. And he's able to reach in, pull out the brain that was running the robot, and go smashy smashy on the floor. Now, of course, OCP decides to use Fax as their scapegoat to say, hey, it's all her fault. She did it. She made evil robot guy and he killed everybody. All her fault. We had nothing to do with it. And they get away scot-free again. Jerks. In Robocop 3, released in 1993, things are a-changing. Peter Weller did not return for a third outing due to a contractual obligation to the film Naked Lunch. I can think about two things wrong with that title. He was replaced by Robert John Burke. The old man did not return for this round either, being replaced by a new CEO played by Rip Torn. Yes, the crazy dad from Freddy Got Fingered, and Zed from Men in Black is the new CEO of OCP. In this newest installment, OCP scored a win and got the city through bankruptcy. They sell controlling stake in the company to Japanese corporation Kenomitsu to finance the project, because now they are able to foreclose on all the public buildings, knock shit down, and build Delta City. This means mass evictions across the city to kick people out and bulldoze everything, with the main action being in a little neighborhood called Cadillac Heights. It being Detroit. Gee, a car reference. Wonderful. I don't know, maybe there's an actual Cadillac Heights. I'm not sure. I've only been to Detroit like once. And survived. Now, since the Detroit PD isn't cool with mass evictions, OCP creates a new security force made of mercenaries called the Urban Rehabilitators, or Rehabs, run by Paul McDaggett. Nico Halloran, a young girl with ridiculous computer skills, loses her parents when they're killed during the eviction and destruction of their home. Now, my favorite scene in the movie comes before all the crazy shit, when Robocop and Lewis are first introduced into the film. Some moron decides to rob a donut shop filled with cops. Of course, this doesn't go well, as you can guess. And you would think he would look around and case the joint before pulling out his gun and trying to rob the joint. No. Of course, after being confronted by a little more than a dozen armed cops, the cashier, played by a young Jeff Garlin, leans over and says, "So what's it like to be a rocket scientist?" Now, obviously, this putz failed armed robbery 101 by not casing the joint, so sucks to be him. Robocop and Lewis chase a van driven by a group of resistance fighters opposing the rehabs, who had just robbed a police armory with the help of Nico. And they took her in after her parents were killed, so she becomes part of them, using her computer skills to help them. But when Lewis and two other officers are surrounded by a psychotic gang called the Splatterpunks, Robocop cuts the chase short to go fuck up some real scumbags. Robocop and Lewis then find a cell of civilians in an old church and defend them from the rehabs. Lewis is killed in the process, with Robocop severely damaged from a 40mm grenade to the frickin' chest. He isn't able to fight them directly because they're OCP, and for some reason Directive 4 is back in play. Goddamn Directive 4. He escapes with the resistance fighters, but his systems are failing from his damage. He has the resistance call up Dr. Lazarus, who helped build him initially. She shows up to repair him, get him fixed. Meanwhile, Kenomitsu isn't confident with OCP. What a shock. And so they send their own cyborg samurai, Otomo, to hunt down Robocop and the Resistance. The Resistance base is attacked after a disgruntled rebel gives McDaggett the location. The rehabs either kill or capture fighters. Otomo and Robocop square off in the empty base, with Otomo cutting off Robocop's hand and fucking up his gun and causing another power issue with that damage. Robocop attaches an arm-mounted cannon and stops Otomo, at least for the time being. Now, Robocop attempts to catch McDaggett, but he escapes. Now, this is also one of the funniest fucking car chases I've ever seen, because McDaggett is escaping in, a urban rehabilitator's van, armored van and all that, and Robocop chases him with a commandeered pimp mobile. I shit you not, he commandeers a car from a pimp. It's like a pink Cadillac, shag carpeting, drapes and shit all over the place, and he's getting into a full-on gunfight in that thing. It's hilarious. Now, Lazarus and Nico hijack a broadcast and reveal OCP is behind all the crime and the bullshit in the neighborhoods, making their stock basically drop to zero, killing the deal, and basically killing off OCP. McDaggett tries to recruit the cops to attack the Resistance, but the cops are like, fuck that shit, and defect to the Resistance, forcing the rehabs to recruit the Splatterpunks. Robocop shows up to save everybody with an awesome jetpack and more machine gunnery, and he fucks up the rehabs and Splatterpunks, then goes to OCP headquarters for McDaggett. He battles two Otomo ninjas, who Nico reprograms to target each other, and once they behead each other, they trigger their self-destruct protocol. Robocop, Nico, and Lazarus escape via Robocop's jetpack, and of course the jet blast burns McDaggett's legs and incapacitates him. He can't reach the bomb in time, and he gets good and blown up. Then, of course, OCP gets shut down, and Detroit is saved. Now, everything was toned down for this one to make a PG-13 rating, so everybody can go see the movie. Which was not a good move. The ultra-violence is why Robocop worked. It was a satire on the ultra-violent action movies of the 80s. That's why it worked. By toning it down, it just wasn't fun anymore. Now, there was a 2014 reboot, Robocop, which changes Robocop's origin. In this one, he's played by Joel Kinnaman, and he's a police detective, critically injured by a car bomb that was planted by a crime lord. He's rebuilt into Robocop by Omnicorp, which is a subsidiary of OCP, believe it or not. And they're using him to bypass a law that says military drone robots can't be used for law enforcement. But as long as you use cyborgs, they're okay. You know, he has trouble adjusting, of course, until he's programmed to let drone programs to do his thing, to help his reflexes and all that. But it bypasses his humanity, so problem. After learning what really happened to him, he goes after everyone who was involved in the car bomb, including two dirty officers and the chief of police, but of course he gets shut down before he can arrest the chief of police. So, yeah. He eventually goes after all the assholes at Omnicorp who were using him, and he finds out they tried to hurt his family, so kills them all. He kills them all. And of course, OCP to save face, not shave face, that's what I do every, maybe once a week or so. Omnicorp is shut down. I mean, it was an okay movie. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but it's watchable. So check it out. I think it is on Prime Video, if I remember right. It's not too bad, but it's no original Robocop in my book. Now, there were two live-action series, lasting each about a season, and one was actually a mini-series of 4 feature-length episodes. Now, there was a Canadian series, Robocop, that was in 1994. And it was weird because he often teamed up with his dad, a retired Detroit cop, to chase criminals. I don't understand why, but okay. This movie takes place about 5 years after the first movie and ignores 2 and 3. They're gonna, so. I've never seen it, but from what I've read, it was just straight goofy as fuck. I'd like to find this show and check it out to see if it is as ridiculous as I've read. Now, there was a 2001 miniseries, it was 4 feature-length episodes, titled Robocop, Prime Directives, which takes place about 10 years after the first movie, with 2, 3, and the previous TV series being ignored. Now, there was no Officer Lewis, Delta City became a reality, and OCP is still around. Robocop is hacked and kills his former partner, John Cable, who is played by Maurice Dean Wint, who we may recognize as Scout from, of course, Captain Power, the Soldiers of the Future. Because why not reference previous episodes? Now, Cable is resurrected as a new kind of Robocop to battle him, and he gets 2 sidearms, so he gets a gun coming out of each leg. That's cool. But of course, he joins forces with them after realizing that, hey, Robocop's not actually the bad guy. What the fuck? Plus, he's my old partner. I have to figure out what's going on. I'm not going to kill him. Now, for the first half of the series, they battle an evil OCP executive who plans to take over the world using a new AI. Of course, they defeat him, kill him, all that fun stuff. In the second half of the series, they battle a mad scientist named Dr. Kadick, who plans to release a biotech virus called Legion to kill everyone. Robocop receives help from a resistance group featuring his grown-up son James, who is aware of his father's fate and knows that Robocop is his father, Alex. And the group is led by a woman named, get this, Anarchy. Anarchy. Yep. I'm not making this up. They went full lazy writing on this one. The virus, along with Robocable, Anarchy, and Dr. Kadick, all die by the end. Robocop is rebooted with an EMP that's meant to stop Legion. And, of course, once he reboots, wiped all his directives, all his OCP bullshit out, and restored his own memory that he is, Alex Murphy. He runs off to go fight the crime in Delta City that is emerging because, the EMP fucked up the electrical grid and, power's out and chaos has ensued. The end. No joke. That's literally how it ended. I've actually watched half of this on Netflix, and it was okay. I gotta have to find it and see if I can watch the other half, because I've never seen the whole Legion half of it. And it sounds pretty goddamn cool. Now, the cartoons. The 1988 Robocop cartoon, or 30-minute toy commercial as we know it on this show, ran for 12 episodes and featured a less violent Robocop who used lasers instead of bullets, which was the style at the time. Even though this is a continuation of the first film, there are some continuity issues, like Clarence Boddicker not having a big-ass hole in his throat, and Bob Morton never existing, because the doctor who worked on him in the first one, Dr. Tyler, was now the creator of the Robocop program. I think what they probably had to do was get rid of Bob Morton, because he was mid-key a scumbag. Okay, who liked to do drugs and hookers and drug hookers and stuff. You know. And of course, like all 30-minute toy commercials from the 80s, every episode had a theme and a villain of the week, and a lesson you could learn. And yes, they used this show to sell toys, a line called Robocop and the Ultra Police. I believe I had a few of these back in the day, and if I remember right, they had like caps you could actually slide into the back, like a cap gun, to make the shooting with the Robocop guns. It's like, why do you need caps for that? And I mean, caps, your kids are going to run through those like crazy. What the hell? You know, if I remember right, I had a few of these toys back in the day. I don't recall, because it's been like 11 billion years. So, now the fun thing is, Robocop would air for me at like 6:30 a.m. on like a Wednesday. Okay, and 7-year-old me did not even know that a 6:30 a.m. existed until that. Okay. Now, I did find that you can find this show on YouTube if you're interested. So check it out. It's pretty good. And, I mean, I can even say I enjoy it now in my 40s. Now, Robocop, Alpha Commando. That was just... what the fuck? Airing 40 episodes between 1998 and 99, it follows Robocop being reactivated after 5 years to help a government agency called Alpha Division battle Dark, the Directorate for Anarchy, Revenge, and Chaos? Who the hell named them? There's like a whole thing for... we got a whole group that's just revenge. On what? We don't know, but we want revenge. Okay. This had even less continuity than the first series, and literally the only character from the movies that came back was the damn desk sergeant, who was one of the few people who was actually in all three movies. Him, one of the OCP executives named Johnson, and the one newscaster, I don't remember the actor's name, but I know the character's name was Casey Wong for Newsbreak. You give us 3 minutes, we'll give you the world. That is totally not a line I've used on girls before. No, not at all. Nope. Now, the other problem with this is Robocop has various gadgets in him, like a goddamn hyper-violent Inspector Gadget, including, I shit you not, a parachute and roller skates. The fuck does Robocop need skates for? Was he gonna fight villains on a roller disco? What the hell? I only found out about the series while I was researching this episode. So, I'm glad I missed it. But now, out of morbid curiosity, I want to find it. This is going to be good. Or bad. We're not sure yet. Alright. Now, Robocop had his share of video games, too. From the arcade games for Robocop 1 and 2, to an NES port of the first game, and for the Game Boy as well, an NES and SNES port for Robocop 3, a terrible first-person shooter for the Xbox, the original one, and an SNES port for Robocop vs. Terminator, which is a comic we did not get into because, to be honest, it is complicated as all hell. Now, while we won't talk about all of these, we'll touch on a few. I mean, I played the first arcade game as a kid at an arcade that was at a mini golf joint that used to be by my house, many, many, many years ago. You know, and I love the NAS version. I could play, I played a rental, we used to go to the video store and rent games. Now, I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was a little tough, but at one point, the game kind of like seemed to glitch out and you couldn't finish it, which kind of sucks. I still play the arcade version of Galloping Ghost when I get the chance. It does stick pretty close to the movie, which is pretty nice. I like when they do that, when they actually stick close to the events of the movie. I mean, yes, spoilers, but at the same time, whatever. If you're playing the game, you've probably seen the movie. I absolutely love the arcade version of Robocop 2. It's pretty damn close to the movie with some minor exceptions, like you fight a guy in a robot suit for some reason before going to chase Kane on the motorcycle. And one level you deal with like toxic waste mutants who are similar to the Tar Man from Return of the Living Dead. And the boss for that level is essentially the Toxic Avenger trying to come at you like a damn football player. Now, it is an absolute goddamn blast. I freaking love this game. And I play it any chance I get. It's an absolute blast. Check it out. Take a shot at it if you can find it, And fun fact, according to the score tracking website Ourcade, I hold the 6th highest score in the game in the world. So that's pretty fucking cool in my book. Now, Robocop 3 for the NES was okay at best. It was made by Ocean Software. It suffered from slippery physics and crap controls. And it was one of those games where, like, you took a hit, you got knocked back, and you get knocked back, good chance you're falling off whatever platform and into the water or in the pit and dying. So, boo. Now, I never got to play the SNES version, but I heard it was much better. I've never played Robocop vs. Terminator, although I would have loved to. I've heard good things, I just never got my hands on it. I also never got my hands on the first-person shooter from 2003 for the original Xbox, but from reviews and the few people I've met who've actually played this thing, it was just god-fucking awful. Like, I'm hoping the new one, Robocop Rogue City, does a better job. Like, when I saw a new Robocop game was coming out, I was like, ha-ha! And then my wife's like, don't you have enough games? And I'm like, I don't have a Robocop game, so shut up. I didn't tell my wife to shut up. I wouldn't be alive if I told my wife to shut up. Well, I will tell you, Robocop was a hell of a movie. Though the franchise output did get worse over time, the original still stands up. Give it a look-see if you haven't. It's a great movie with tons of entertainment value and a lot of fun. I'd buy that for $1. Well, that's it for another unforgettable luncheon. I hope a good time was had by all. You can catch me on the social medias: Instagram, X, also known as Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch as SteamedHams81. You can also find me on Facebook as The Unforgettable Luncheon. Also, check out my merch store. The link will be in the description at my link tree, actually. Check it out. Buy some cool Unforgettable Luncheon merchandise and help support this podcast. I would like to be able to help it grow more. So come check it out. And, of course, it was great having all of you here. Join me next time when the topic will be something nerdy.